So for the informative speech for change, I chose the speaker Charlie Kirk. And before I begin, I'd like to preface that this is a highly controversial recent event, and that when listening, it is necessary to put aside bias and any disdain towards this individual, because if we cannot listen or to what he had to say or to what other people have to say about him or any sort of controversial matter, then there is no room for social change. Like there if we can't talk about something, change is not going to happen. So that being said, Charlie Kirk was oh, whoa, okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. Charlie Kirk was the founder of Turning Point USA and also the leader. Whether one agrees on his beliefs, no one can deny him as being a phenomenal example of a speaker who effectively uses communication to advocate for social change. Well, he said many controversial things, some of which even I don't agree with personally myself. His ability to use ethos, pathos, logos, and audience-centered communication makes him a very strong case study among many of the other topics that we've already covered in the other lessons and chapters so far. I would also like to preface one other thing is that all of this information found, including this entire slide, was found from Turning Point USA. It was difficult to find non-biased information, especially since he does have so many critics and a lot of it has negative connotation and a lot of it is not entirely truthful, and there's a lot of rumors that people will create about him, and then also the people who will agree with his beliefs to the utmost nth degree. So I felt like listening to, or excuse me, reading the information from Turning Point USA was more so just straight towards the point. It was who he was, why he was doing this, and his mission and his beliefs behind it. So that being said, he founded Turning Point USA in 2012, and his goal was to mobilize young conservatives on campuses. His goal was restorative. He wanted to bring back America. He wanted to bring America back to his beliefs of free market and traditional values. A major part in his message is the belief that institutions and colleges often um, silence conservative and Republican students while pressing left-leaning ideologies onto them, which I've seen firsthand. I've had friends who've experienced it in college applications or even in English writing assignments, whatever it may be. They don't feel comfortable enough to express their true beliefs about a given topic because uh, faculty, teachers, staff will mark them down because it doesn't coincide with the left-leaning beliefs that have been so recent. There's been a recent uproar of pressing upon left ideologies in schools, which not not picking sides, but this is what he fought for, and this is also just something as a student myself at this age is something that I've also seen. More importantly, and a very often overlooked aspect of Kirk's mission was his emphasis on fostering a safe environment for civil debate, where he welcomed liberal students so that they could have an opportunity to partake in discussion from the opposing view. He also encouraged even other Republicans who didn't entirely agree with everything that he said, and even independents and any sort, everything under all students under the political umbrella of what they believed in. He encouraged them to come forward and voice their opinion, voice their beliefs. He encouraged them to deconstruct and question their own beliefs just as much as they did his. And he did this also because he wanted to understand where they were coming from. He wanted to understand the thought process taken and the steps taken in order to have arrived on the conclusion or the stance that they have decided on. And he wanted to understand that, and using this approach, he was able to encourage dialogue in a deeper discussion, which strengthened his ability to connect with students across ideological divisions. Through careful audience analysis, Kirk gave conservative students a voice, but he also gave the opposing view a platform to engage in conversation rather than shutting it down, because this is something that has been um, a very common occurrence, is where opposing political views will be in a discussion, and then one of them will end up shutting down, or both of them will end up shutting down, or one or the other. So, Charlie's change. He promoted social change. Uh, and one of the ways that he did this was hosting student action summits, and he also did have a daily radio show, and he had a very strong social media presence all over different platforms and other outlets. Uh, Another thing too is that he appealed through ethos. His rhetoric blends through ethos as credibility as a young leader. He started Turning Point USA at 18 years old with no money, no idea what he was doing, and it took off. And then he also appeals through pathos, through his patriotism and identity and his passion for encouraging students to do their due diligence before they decide on a given topic or perspective. He also appealed through logos in his beliefs of capitalism and limited government, but he also used clear message framing, like slogans such as "socialism sucks," which was super easy for the audience to remember and then use in later conversation as a easy conversation starter. So, Charlie's critics, here I do have 3 links, which I have tried to record a good portion of them. However, the video ends up being too long. But this deconstructs all of the rumors that have been said against him about him being racist and homophobic, among other things. Basically, those are the main 2 that these focus on. There are plenty of videos. However, there is so much criticism, and the entire reason why he decided uh, to go onto college campuses is because he knows that students at this age, at my age, from 18 to 22, are at a very impressionable age where they will see something on social media and they will run with it. They will form their opinion right off of it, and they won't do any research behind it. And so, I thought that this was a good way to do my due diligence and for others to prove that he wasn't what everyone made him claim, or what everybody claimed him to be. And this is also because of the way that he spoke, and people were offended by it. And so when people are offended, they're gonna cross mix messages and make them seem like something that it's really not. And this happens every day in social media, and that this is something that just has to be debunked. So Kirk's effectiveness. He built the largest conservative youth movement in the US, and he had very good audience-centered communication, which is where he adapted the context of his responses or his speeches according to faith groups or students or media outlets and other platforms. But he also had a strong delivery. He had very good vocal variety, and his posture was impeccable. As soon as he was engaged in a conversation, you could tell by his body language, and that goes as well with the gestures, that he was engaged. He was passionate about conversing with the youth. And he was also effective at mobilizing conservatives through polarizing nationality. So, Charlie's conclusion: Kirk shows the power of public speaking in driving social change. He also highlighted the silence of conservative voices on campus, and he used dialogue and persuasion and credibility to influence the youth. And by influence, I mean that by he encouraged them to, as I just stated, do their due diligence, do their research, ask questions, and not just jump aboard the train of what they see on social media. So, unfortunately, he has been shot and killed, and it definitely was why I wanted to talk on this topic, because I don't agree with everything that he did say. I agree with some of the things that he said, but the way he fostered a comfortable environment and wanted people to communicate was just, it was something that could not be overlooked. So, taking out Charlie Kirk and his voice only influenced millions all over the world to use theirs. It does not matter if you reside as a Democrat or a Republican, nor does it matter if you believe that Democrat or Republican or even an Israeli shot him. But what does matter was that he was silenced for utilizing his First Amendment. He was silenced for using his voice. Charlie had the exact same amount of power in the government as you and I did. He did not withhold the power to sign laws, pass bills, or enact any sort of law or bill, governmental material that could directly harm any group or individual. As Americans, that should invoke fear amongst all of us because Charlie was one of us. If one of us as an American is being silenced, who's to say that some of us aren't next? As some people have said, he was just an influencer. You're right. He's just an influencer who had a voice. He had an opinion. So I digress, but as Americans, that is a terrifying feeling knowing that he was silenced because all he did was weaponize his voice. But Charlie was a father, he was a husband, and he was an American. He pointed the microphone at other fellow Americans while they pointed a gun at him. So that is all. Thank you for listening.